Hi there and welcome to this first episode in a series I'm creating for my colleagues at Colchester Institute on how to use various digital systems to make your lives easier and the quality of what we do better. We're going to start with a very short episode where I'm just going to be going over what some of the various AI models are and how you can use them, briefly show you a couple of examples. But as we continue with the series, what we're going to do is actually give you some specific case examples of how you can use this to do everything from planning your lessons to creating assessment tools, to resources, interactive and kind of old school handouts and what have you, basically only being limited by what you can think of. So we're going to dive straight in and I'll give you a little look around some of the models that I like to use. So to begin with, I've got a few models up here. I've got ChatGPT, I have Google Gemini, and I also have Copilot. Now, each of these is good for different things. I find that ChatGPT in general is better at coming up with an idea. It seems to just have a bit more of an understanding of context and requirements. But one of the tools that is very quickly catching up is Google Gemini. Now, Google Gemini, I have found, which is only on its second model really, as opposed to ChatGPT, which is on its fourth, is very quickly kind of overtaking with certain aspects like coding. So if you want to create interactive tools, for example, or the assessment tools that I mentioned earlier, most of that is going to be done within Gemini itself. Now, Copilot is something I've played with a little bit, but this is kind of built specifically to work with the other Microsoft tools. Now, it's quite good for, again, things like coding and general context, but it tends to chunk things a little bit more, so you kind of have to work a little bit harder. But it does have the benefit of being able to carry this straight over into Excel, Word, etc. Google Gemini is kind of slowly catching up with that to create things like Google Forms. It's now integrated into Google Classroom, and as I said, it's great for general coding. Now, ChatGPT is a tool which I like to use to at least get everything started, and what I mean by that is giving it a general task and getting it to come up with the most of it that I can then kind of finish off in some of the other tools. So it is often quite handy to play these off against each other. So, for example, let's give it a simple request, such as, can you plan a 60-minute session on how to make a dovetail joint? Okay. Now, we're not going to give it any more context than that. Obviously, what it doesn't know right now is the level of the students, the age of the students, what it is that they have already learned, where it is that they're going to go with this afterwards, what equipment we actually have available to us, any differentiated needs. It's going to give you some general information for the kind of differentiation and what have you. You can see that here. So it basically only says extra guidance for less confident students. It isn't talking about specific needs that you might have within that class, extension tasks for any learners that do finish. I often find as well that it is a little bit generous with the timings, but that could just be me. I like to keep my students constantly moving and kind of always feeling like they need to be at work. So quite often I'll cut these timings down so I don't have anyone sitting there twiddling their thumbs, but you can always get it to rework it afterwards. So, for example, if I wanted to say to it, I don't have any mallets, okay, I can just say, thanks for this, but I don't have any mallets. How can I adapt? And it will kind of start working through that. Now, as I said, ChatGPT is quite good for coming up with these things, but one of the things we're going to talk about is the importance of this, the context of the session. We're going to start talking about that in future episodes. As I said, this one is just a brief introduction to what it is that you can actually do and some of the tools that we're going to be using. So what we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to take what we've just done a little bit further and we're going to give it some more specific requirements for generating a lesson plan, and we're also going to start giving it some more information about specific needs that we have, specific equipment, where it is that we want to take those sessions further. We're going to look at trying to develop an entire term plan. And as well as that, in other episodes, we're going to start talking to it about how we want things to be formatted. So if you need it to be specific for the paperwork that we use, or anything along those lines. So join me in the next episode where we're going to start looking at how we can get these tools to help us plan out our year.